Do you know anybody that's confident that doesn't allow other people to question them? Because if you're confident, whatever you're saying should be able to stand in the face of scrutiny, right? People that don't allow other people to question them or censor information around themselves, they know that the narratives that they're spitting, it won't stand up to questioning because it has malicious intent behind it, and they don't want you to find out. They don't want you to be the wiser. Censorship is controlling perception, and perception is controlling behavior. That perception comes from a belief, and that belief comes from the information that you know. If you dominate the narrative, then you control the perception in a lot of people that don't consider another way of looking at the situation that they're in. Just like how cults separate their members from the outside world and outside information. Like how Jim Jones brought all his People's Temple church members into a jungle in Guyana. It's not just limited to cults and religion, it's also countries. Look at North Korea. North Korea is like one big cult. Like they're just in a regime to worship the leader, Supreme Kim Jong-un. I heard that they get a penalty if a soldier goes in one of their house and they see dust on the picture of Kim Jong-un. Like they have to worship the leader. People over there are starving and suffering, but they don't even know what starving and suffering is. They only know Kim Jong-un as their god. They don't get information on the outside world. If anything, there's a lot of propaganda that tells them the outside world is demonic. And the thing about the average person is that they don't even question anything. They don't question a thing of what's going on. They just want to just find a comfortable corner to live. The mainstream narrative, mainstream narrative is controlled by the government, and it's controlled by big organizations that have money involved in all of their back pockets, okay? They're not objectively reporting on the news. That's not what they're in the business for. Pretty sure you got a little glimpse of this during the pandemic when every one of them were having the same talking points. Trust the science. And it was like the Salem witch trials where everybody was just hating on everybody that didn't want to make a personal medical decision for themselves. What they did during that pandemic was they manipulated everybody's emotion. Oh, you don't want to take the shot? Well, we're going to strip you from your income so that you don't have any food to put on the table tonight until you take this jab. Take the jab for your grandma. Think about your grandma. You're going to pass the sickness to your grandma, even though it doesn't stop transmission. The news hyped all the fear and propaganda, all the while censoring people that had an ulterior or a different way of looking at things. Like, wait, hold on here. And they called it misinformation. These are all buzzwords. Like anytime you hear a word that comes out of nowhere, and everybody just starts saying it, like it's just popping up. Everyone's just saying it now, like misinformation, that's misinformation. And then you got memes on it and this person saying it. And bro, that comes from a top-down machine that's generating the thoughts. Mainstream has an agenda to keep, so they have these little trigger words to keep the agenda on track, like racist, misogynistic, homophobic. What else? Like all of these little buzzwords, like xenophobic. These words are associated with a negative feeling. They get you in this feeling of like, oh, that person is a wow. And then you just start thinking, wow, that's what people think about that person. Because mainstream narrative, they know that most people, they go off of what other people are saying about this person. So they're like, well, if other people are saying it, it must be true, right? Recently happened to Russell Brand because he's an actor that turned into this spiritual messenger that's exposing the truth to what's going on behind the scenes with these elites. And because of this, they want to defame his character. So they started coming up with allegations like, oh, sexual abuse, he did something. It was only speculation. It was only the mainstream trying to dramatize his name so that people can automatically just think that he did it. They attack your character so that they can attach a negative feeling to it. So anybody that hears your name, it's like a negative feeling that's attached to it. And so they don't want to hear any information that's coming from you. There's three mentalities that's among the population. The first mentality is the oblivious one, the one that doesn't question authority at all. They think authority are like their safe haven. They think that they wouldn't do anything wrong to them, so they just follow commands and fall in line. The second mentality is when you start questioning things, when you start saying, hold up, things are not adding up here. This is not making sense. But then you're like, I might get in trouble. I might get embarrassed. I just don't want the heat for questioning things. Let me just go along with it. That's the second mentality. The acquiescence. Acquiescence is when you go along with something that you don't entirely agree with. Now, the third mentality is when you're like, no, I will not have that. I will not do that. I will not participate in my own enslavement. Why they don't want that third mentality in the population is because the first two mentalities, where you're oblivious or you just acquiesce with what they're doing, they can control you way more easily like that than you standing up for yourself. They don't want you to be confident. That's not in the agenda. They want you to be in fear, because that's when you're passive to their control. This is where the word toxic masculinity comes in, right? Where everyone just started saying this, right? Just out of nowhere, everyone's just like toxic masculinity, toxic. This doesn't make sense. It's like how you have mad scientists that's playing Frankenstein with viruses in Wuhan, China lab. Same is done with psychology. The government uses psychologists to do population psyopses, psychological operations to test their level of control over the population. The reason they do this is because we as human beings hate change. So any change that's too drastic, we're gonna rebel. They send subliminal messages out to the population to prepare them for what's to come, so when it does come, it's a meme. Everyone's just joking about it, like, oh yeah, whatever. And it's normal and accepted. When you look at a pyramid, it's a hierarchy of command. And certain chains within this command are oblivious to why they're being told to do what they're doing. They just do what they're told to preserve their career without even knowing that they're participating in an agenda. This world is manipulated from the unseen. Scientists say that the electromagnetic spectrum is only 0.5% of reality, and only 5% of that is observable matter. We're basically blind to mostly everything that's going on. Throughout ancient history and in most religions, there's this unforeseen force with negative intent that manipulates humanity. In Christianity, we come to know this as demons, Satan, the devil, Lucifer. Islam, they call it jinn or the Iblis. And in Gnosticism, they call it the archons. Archons are the rulers to this third dimensional world, and their head honcho is the demi-urchin. We can also see in ancient history that a lot of people made sacrifices to gods. They made a lot of blood sacrifices and rituals to gods. Video spiritual practice, I hinted at Hillary Clinton doing spiritual cooking and all these blood rituals in their spiritual practice. These elites do way worse things with children and satanic rituals, like how Jeffrey Epstein's flight log list won't be released because there's a lot of powerful people that flew on that plane. Why would gods need human sacrifices? Why would they need anything from us, right? Well, first off, let's clear the air. They're not gods. These entities are not gods. They are tricksters. I want you to think about the movie Monsters Incorporated, right? The whole premise of that movie is that there are monsters in another dimension that come through portals to scare little kids so that they can get their scare in a bottle to take back to their world to generate their energy supply. Monsters World, their whole energy comes from the fear that's generated from this world. Anytime we have a feeling or a thought, we're generating a frequency off of that thought or feeling. These entities that rule from the unseen are very low vibrational. Anything that imposes their will on another being forcefully or causes war, separation, all of that negative stuff, that is low vibration. And it's the law of attraction that's in effect too. The only way a low vibrational being can affect you is if you're in a low vibrational state. The energy that they absorb and feed off of is fear, anxiety, regret, hate. They love it when we feel like shit about ourselves. They love it when we fight with each other. They love that. They just can't get enough of it. That's their drug. Their drug is seeing us fight against each other. The pandemic was supposed to happen. Because of that, more people are aware of the concerted effort. The media is in collusion with Big Pharma and all of these other organizations to control the information. Don't know how much I could say on this topic, which proves my point even more. But if I can speculate, I'm thinking that they're trying to create a GMO human, genetically modified humans, not with superpowers. Nah, it's just to take away the genetic properties so that we can be dependent on their system to live. You ever seen the movie Avatar with the blue people? In that movie, they had to transfer their consciousness into a blue person's vessel in order to infiltrate their tribe or village, right? The same goes for reality. These archons take on human form and they appear as human. I know all of this is starting to sound crazy. I know it's starting to sound crazy. It's starting to like get a little out there like, oh, whoa, you're talking about lizard people. Okay, I see what this is about. Unsubscribe. Average person thinks that all of this is make-believe. All of this is just like all in my head. They perceive only through the five senses. What they could see, hear, smell, touch, and that's all they know is real. That's it. That's the only real thing to them. Even your beloved scientists that you think have the truth say this: 99% of the universe is plasma. You can't even see it. We're blind to most of what's happening, and we're blind to most of the entities that's moving around what's happening too. If you were to go 1000 BC to 1000 BC and tell somebody there that I have a device that can send information on this bandwidth of Wi-Fi, right? And it could send it to the other side of the planet at light speed. That person will look at you crazy like, whoa, man, you're crazy. What? That's magic. But we know it today as Wi-Fi. That's normal. You can't see Wi-Fi. You can't feel Wi-Fi. You can't touch Wi-Fi. You can't taste Wi-Fi. But you know when you got some good Wi-Fi in the building, right? The difference between that's crazy and we already know that is knowledge. Literally. That's the difference. That's crazy. We already know that. It's knowledge. I don't care what you think as long as you think, like, comment, subscribe.